It is day 3 without power, and the temperature inside your house has dropped to 51 degrees. Your children stopped asking for snacks this morning. Now they are just quiet. And that silence is louder than anything you have ever heard. You pull the emergency tote out of the closet, the one you spent $640 building last spring. Freeze-dried chicken, freeze-dried strawberries, a 25-serving bucket with a picture of a mountain on the lid and a promise of a 30-year shelf life printed in bold type. You tear open the first pouch, read the instructions, and feel something cold move through your chest that has nothing to do with the temperature. You need 2 cups of boiling water per serving. You have no power. Your camp stove uses propane, and you burned through your last canister making coffee yesterday morning because nobody told you to ration it. The food is technically in your hands. It is also completely inaccessible. $600, sitting in a pile of foil pouches. Useless. You reach to the back of the pantry shelf, the one you almost cleaned out last month, and your hand finds a 5-pound bag of white rice you bought at Walmart for $1.28, a canister of iodized salt, a sealed jar of raw honey that you got on clearance. These items cost you less than $9 total. Tonight, with a pot of water heated over 2 tea light candles, they will feed your family. Tomorrow, they will do it again. Here is the part the freeze-dried food industry, a market now worth over $4 billion annually, will never put on a label. Freeze-dried food is an extraordinary product for one specific use case: a backpacker who needs ultra-lightweight over a 3-day trail. For long-term home food security, it is one of the most expensive, fragile, and logistically dependent survival strategies you can build. The moment you remove AWS, reliable heat and water, the 2 things most likely to disappear in a real grid-down scenario, the entire system collapses. You cannot eat powder. You cannot reconstitute chicken with cold creek water at safe temperatures in under 40 minutes. The industry built a $640 purchase around the assumption that your emergency will be convenient. Real emergencies are not convenient. The companies selling you those buckets generate profit margins between 60 and 80% on every unit. They cannot build a revenue model around a 50-pound bag of white rice that costs $22 and outlasts their entire product line. So they sell you complexity. They sell you serving counts calculated at 200 calories per day, a starvation-level ration that the average adult male will burn through in under 6 hours of moderate physical activity during a crisis. They sell you the illusion of preparedness through branding. The bitter truth is that the most prepared people on Earth, the ones who have actually lived through supply chain collapses, natural disasters, and extended grid failures, are not shopping from tactical websites. They are shopping from the same grocery store you drive past 3 times a week. Strip away the marketing, the metallized pouches, the celebrity preppers, and the tactical branding, and you arrive at a single, ruthless truth about food security. The body needs caloric density, macronutrient balance, and moisture-stable storage. That is it. That is the entire science. A food supply that delivers those 3 things and can be prepared with minimal fuel and water will outperform a $600 bucket every single time. The U.S. military's long-term ration doctrine, developed over 70 years of field testing, is built not on freeze-dried complexity, but on the highest calorie, lowest moisture, most compact foods available. You already know what those foods are. You walked past them last Tuesday. Walk into any Walmart in America and find the rice aisle. A 5-pound bag of long-grain white rice costs between $1.28 and $1.68. Transferred into a 5-gallon food-grade bucket with an oxygen absorber and a sealed gamma lid, a setup that costs under $8 total. That rice achieves a verified shelf life of 25 to 30 years. Not a marketing claim. A documented result validated by the USDA and replicated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Welfare Food Storage Program, which has maintained one of the largest civilian long-term food reserves in human history for over 70 years. White rice is 365 calories per 100 grams. It requires only water and heat. It stores in the dark, at room temperature, without refrigeration, without electricity, and without any equipment you do not already own. For under $100, you can store enough white rice to provide 2,000 calories per day for a family of 4 for 60 days. A comparable freeze-dried supply for the same caloric yield and duration will cost you between $1,400 and $2,200. That is not a sale they can compete with. That is why they don't mention rice. But as your stomach quiets and you start rationing that rice, a different crisis begins to unfold, one that kills more quietly and more completely than hunger. Fat starvation. The human body cannot survive on carbohydrates alone indefinitely. Without dietary fat, organ function degrades, hormonal systems collapse, and cognitive performance drops so sharply that decision-making in a crisis becomes nearly impossible. This is what killed more Arctic and Antarctic explorers than cold temperatures did. It is called rabbit starvation, and it is real, and it is the single nutritional blind spot in nearly every budget food storage plan built around grains alone. This is where the real education begins. Crisco all-vegetable shortening, a 5.48 kilo can at Walmart. Unopened, stored cool and dark, it maintains quality for 2 to 4 years. And in sealed, nitrogen-flushed conditions, studies from Utah State University's food lab have documented stability beyond 10 years. It is pure fat. 110 calories per tablespoon. It requires 0 refrigeration, 0 water, and 0 preparation. 1 tablespoon added to a bowl of rice elevates it from a carbohydrate ration to a functioning survival meal with macronutrient balance. Raw honey. This is not a wellness trend. This is the only food product on Earth with a verified infinite shelf life when kept sealed and away from moisture. Archaeologists excavated 3,000-year-old honey from Egyptian tombs in 2015 and found it perfectly edible. Honey is antimicrobial, caloric at 60 calories per tablespoon, and functions as a wound dressing, a cough suppressant, and a caloric supplement simultaneously. A 32-ounce jar at Walmart costs under $9. It will outlive every freeze-dried product you have ever purchased. White granulated sugar, iodized salt, apple cider vinegar. These 3 items together cost under $6 and accomplish things that no tactical food pouch can replicate. Sugar is pure caloric energy with an unlimited shelf life when kept dry. Salt is the oldest food preservation technology in human history. The Roman military paid soldiers in salt because it was worth more than silver in a sustained campaign. Apple cider vinegar, unopened, maintains indefinite shelf life due to its natural acidity and functions as a food preservative, a cleaning agent, a digestive aid, and a pickling solution for extending the life of fresh vegetables during a crisis. Hard red wheat berries and rolled oats round out the foundation. A 50-pound bag of hard red wheat berries, the raw, unprocessed whole grain, costs under $40 at Walmart or any farm supply store. Stores for 25-plus years sealed properly and can be ground into flour with a hand mill that costs less than $60. Rolled oats, sealed in a 5-gallon bucket with oxygen absorbers, maintain quality for 30 years and deliver 150 calories per half cup with meaningful protein and fiber content. The combined cost of these 9 items for a 90-day family supply sits between $80 and $140 depending on quantity. Not $600, not $1,400, $140. Now I need to stop you, because everything I just told you becomes worthless if you make one specific mistake that I see constantly in food storage setups. Heat, light, oxygen, and moisture are the 4 enemies of long-term food stability. I have visited homes where someone spent $200 on rice and grain storage and then placed the buckets in a garage that reaches 95 degrees in July. At that temperature, a food supply rated for 25 years degrades to under 3 years. The research from Brigham Young University's Food Science Department is unambiguous. Every 10-degree increase in average storage temperature cuts shelf life roughly in half. Dark, climate-controlled interior spaces, a basement, a closet, a room that stays under 70 degrees year-round, are not optional. They are the entire difference between a 25-year supply and a 3-year supply. Oxygen absorbers are not optional either. A 300 cc oxygen absorber in a properly sealed 5-gallon bucket reduces internal oxygen levels to below 2%, creating an environment where no insect can survive its full life cycle and no aerobic bacterial process can operate. Without them, even sealed grain can harbor weevil eggs invisible to the naked eye that will hatch and consume your supply within 18 months. A pack of 100 oxygen absorbers costs $12. It protects hundreds of dollars in food. Do not skip it. Real preparedness was never a product. It was never a bucket with a mountain on it, or a foil pouch with a 30-year promise, or a tactical kit assembled by a company whose primary customer is someone who has never experienced a real emergency. Real preparedness is a practice. It is the quiet discipline of understanding what your body actually needs, knowing where to find it for almost nothing, and storing it correctly so that when the moment arrives, and for a growing percentage of people in this country, that moment is no longer hypothetical, you are not tearing open a pouch and looking for water you don't have. You now know what 99% of the prepper market will never learn, because learning it costs the industry billions. You know the 9 items. You know the science behind them. You know the one mistake that destroys everything. That knowledge cannot be recalled, cannot expire, and cost you nothing. Before you close this video, I want to ask you one question. What is the one item already in your home right now, something ordinary, something you almost threw away, that you now realize belongs in your long-term food storage? Drop it in the comments. The answers people leave on videos like this are more valuable than anything the survival industry has ever packaged. If you are serious about building real food security without being lied to about what it costs, subscribe now. Not because this channel needs the number, but because the information coming is the kind that takes years to gather and costs the people selling complexity everything when it gets out. Join the people who have decided to stop paying $600 for theater and start building something real. True preparedness is not purchased, it is practiced, and it starts with what is already within reach.